Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Just Enough to Suffer. The New York Jets are 6-3, and the perennial Super Bowl favorites, the perennial MVP candidate, the coach of the year, all that bullshit. They walked into the stadium and they got their fucking asses beat. We clamped them on offense. We clamped them on defense. We beat them on offense the way that this team should play every single week. I have a take that I want to get off on for you here that I think you'll actually enjoy. And we're headed into the bye at 6-3, like I said. Coming out of the game, there's a lot to talk about. But Greg, I was at the stadium today, so there's probably a lot of things I missed on TV. Why don't you give me a feel for your vibes and how you're feeling coming out of the game?
Well, you forgot to mention that Buffalo was missing some key defensive guys because that has to be taken into account only for other teams. When they play the Jets, but not when the Jets are missing their two best offensive players. Doesn't count when it's
probably the rookie of the year on offense, running back, probably one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, probably like 14 other linemen that were missing. But yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, not a big deal at all. This was a statement win, and something that I didn't think I didn't think it was going to happen. Just the way that we played and Maybe it was more so coming off the New England game, but this defense, we hadn't really seen them play a team and a guy like Allen all year long. I mean, they kind of did with Lamar, but it's obviously not the same firepower that this Bills offense is. And to have the game start off with the fucking kicker stepping on the tee, shanking a kick, and then the Diggs 45-yard pass on Sauce, you're just like, awesome. Glad we're playing football today. And then Allen does 2019 Josh Allen things, throws it right to Whitehead. And it's like, oh, okay. You kind of file it away all right. They mitigated it.
Yeah, typical Josh stuff. He does that stuff all the time, but he doesn't make that many mistakes in a game anymore. He usually overcomes it and plays well.
Mitigated a situation where they could have been down 7-0 within the first minute and 30 seconds of the game. And when they got down 14, I think it was 14-3. There was kind of all right, this is a very big spot because if they get down 3 scores, this game's probably over because they're just not a team that's built to do that.
Yep.
They go down, they score. You were at the game. I was watching the game from home. I blacked out for most of it too because I was so fired up. But I think that the main thing is Zach looked calm and confident all game long,
and played within himself.
Exactly. Had a couple missed throws, which fine, whatever, it's going to happen. Everyone does that. But when they needed it most, he came up big. The Mims slant play, that's a big dick throw and a big dick catch by a guy.
After he dropped a tough one right before that.
Which would have been an insane catch. But
I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it in real time. I felt like Zach really rifled it in there, and it was a catchable ball, but he
had it in his hands. Yeah, it was a tough catch. It was a tough throw.
Tough catch.
Yeah. The thing I love most about Zach, though, was the couple of times where he ran and he stepped up in the pocket and he ran a little bit. And that's huge because that's been there all season long and he hasn't taken it. Maybe he's not trusting himself off the injury, not trusting himself, period.
But well, he had that little injury scare, too. That was yikes.
Yeah, not roughing the passer, though.
No, not roughing the passer.
No. They survived that. They survived the fucking Skynet cam or whatever the hell it's called.
Yep.
Completely took the wind out of the Jets' sails there. The game was under protest until they kicked the field goal and won. I mean, just a lot of discombobulated thoughts, but I mean, a hell of a showing at home, a place where they struggled all season long, going down early against the Super Bowl favorite and coming back. And outside of the big Diggs throw and the big Allen run, didn't let that offense get any sort of momentum.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my biggest takeaway from this game. You could take it one of two ways. Me, as a person who thinks Josh Allen is extremely overrated, can say their offense isn't that good to begin with. They're really just Josh and Diggs. That's pretty much he throws at Diggs every single play. That's all he does. We had Gabe on lock. We had Diggs had like 6 or 7 catches for like 90 yards or whatever, but like
But none of them were
held in
huge.
check. Yeah, and even that
Yeah.
one at the end of the game, the big catch he made was
that was incomplete.
It was incomplete, right? So like held him in check all game long.
It would have been incomplete if there was no hold on that play.
Yep.
Should have been incomplete. So it would have been a touchdown for the Bills.
I think just the thing I take away the most from this game is the maturation is probably not the right word, but just like an understanding of Zach of like, okay, if I just play within myself here, I don't get too crazy, and I keep it to the short intermediate throws, and I look for a big one every once in a while, and we just pound the ball, we're going to win. We're going to win a lot of games that way. Like we missed Brees, and we thought we know that that's going to be a big loss going down the stretch here, but like you could still run the ball with Mike. James Robinson looked great today. Like this offense, like the offensive line, people were so worried about, coming into this game, myself included. They held up well throughout the game. Like I felt like it was a pretty good performance, all things considered. The only big sack that I remember was the strip sack with Vaughn, like later in the game. I don't remember how many sacks I had. I could look it up. How many sacks they had? I could look it up when you start. I
think it was only like 1 or 2, and Von Miller was, like you said, relatively held in check outside of the one strip sack and then the play on the last drive where it was just a good recognition, which it looked like one of those like option plays. And Vaughn was just like, yeah, there's no shot Zach's running this ball. Like
speaking of making a read, I think the biggest two massive plays in the game. Bryce Huff at the end, getting his arm on the ball there, and definitely hurt Josh on that play because the next throw was like very short and it was very obvious his arm was hurting.
He was holding his arm too.
And then I think the play of the day is Jermaine Johnson. Like the recognition on that play, to see what Josh was going to do. They obviously have been looking at that. That was very clear. And Jermaine read it like a book and wrapped them up and got the sack. And I think that really was one of the critical plays in the game. And rookie of the week, that's probably not leaving Florham Park again. I think that's safe to say.
And the play was even better because he fought off a block as well. It wasn't one of those where like he was just standing there free and then was forced to go make a tackle. That was all comes off the block and then takes a great angle and a great pursuit on Allen and gets him down. That was just huge, and it was awesome to see for a guy who looked like he was starting to get his legs under him, and then he got hurt against Miami, and to come back and make a huge play like that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I saw online that people were saying that Jermaine was playing kind of like an outside linebacker position a lot of the game. Was he playing a lot? Not in a 3-point stance?
They did it sometimes, but it wasn't anything where
that's interesting.
They're given different. I mean, if this defense wants to evolve, that's going to get very scary. Obviously, not you put guys, you want to have the right personnel and not have guys do things that obviously is uncomfortable to them. But if they're going to start doing that stuff with a guy like Jermaine, who I think is capable of doing that, then things start to get a lot more interesting with this defense.
Yeah. Couple more things for the defense. I think earlier in the week, I saw a stat about Sauce that he's pretty much first in like every single defensive position, every single defensive statistic. And I said, like, what does Sauce have to do to get into the defensive player of the year conversation? I know that's a little bit outlandish to say, but like, if you're the best cornerback at every statistic in the NFL, on some level, it's like, hey, maybe this deserves some consideration. And I thought
we know because it comes down to interceptions and
correct. So that's what I said. I think he needs a couple more picks. Yeah, I think he needs a couple more picks to get into the conversation. And what's he do today? He comes out and gets a nice pick. Josh Allen, beautiful, nice little gimme, and that was beautiful.
Pissed.
He played bad. I don't think he played well today. Like, I don't know. Maybe we're just a great matchup for them, and that's possible, right? Like between the two corners and the pass rush, it just gets them in some trouble. And I now have a weird tainted view of how I think the Bills are, but they don't seem like that good of a team. But not that great of a team. They're obviously a good team. But like, how great is this team supposed to be? Like, they play the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense is terrible. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not scared of anybody anymore.
Well, we came into this week talking about how the Jets kind of needed to play this type of game to win against Buffalo. They need to muck it up. They need to have a lot of long drives.
No turnovers.
I mean, that ending drive was throw your dick on the table. You're not stopping us. We're going down the field.
We went like 96 yards just running.
7-minute drive.
Just like almost exclusively running.
The one pass was the one to Mims.
Yeah. I mean, fourth quarter to end the game. To close out the game.
95 yards.
We got the ball on the 4-yard line, went for 9 yards, for 7 yards, for 16 yards, for 17 yards, for 4 yards, for 15 yards. I mean, like, I don't know. We just gashed him to death at the end of the game. And that goes back to what Salah's been talking about and what we've talked about on the show. 60%. And we just have a little bit more in the tank than a lot of other teams, it seems like. And that starts with the coaching staff. That starts with the vibe in the room. You know, I was in the car for a long time after the game today. Some of the worst traffic getting out of a Jets game I've ever experienced was today, which is
Buffalo people can't drive. They're Canadian.
They can't drive. Their team stinks, and By the way, I'm getting really scatterbrained like you. They were so confused post game. Like the look on people's faces was like, "What just happened? We just lost to the Jets." You did.
Yeah, you did.
Not only did they didn't beat themselves. They didn't make a bunch of mistakes, and that's the reason they lost the game. They got beat today. The Jets were better than them today, and I saw somebody, I forget who it was tweeting about it, like the Brett Favre quote of like, "We might not be the best team in the league, but we're the best team in the league today." You know, like, I don't know, man.
Just a beacon.
Brett Favre obviously has had some mistakes along the way ever since, but that's a good quote in context, in the vacuum of that moment, and that moment only. Disavow.
No, but that's all it comes down to, man. Like this, I was talking with my dad afterwards because he'll peel back behind the curtain. After games, I take the dog for a long W. Can't say the word because then he gets excited. And we just kind of talk about the game. We were going through the rest of the schedule, and it's not one of those like, oh, pencil in a win. There's not one game where this team can't hang with someone. When's the last time we've been able to say something like that?
We just beat the Super Bowl favorites. We can hang with everybody. Like that goes out the window. There's no more of this. Like, oh, and I'm the biggest, offender of the whole thing. I really honestly thought we had no chance to win this game. This game was about keeping it, within the spread and trying to put up a good performance and showing that you can play with a team like this, right? It was not about it was about winning, but I didn't think going into the game that we had a chance to win the game.
No, realistically, you go into this game and you play like they did, and you lose because the Bills just have like a long drive down the field and you lose 24-17, right? And you come out of that game and you're like, oh, fuck, you want to win, and there's no such thing as like good losses, but it's like, okay, you can take a lot coming out of that game. They can hang with this team. Like, we'll see them again in a couple weeks. But to go in and have a performance like that was incredible. And in the second half too, I think they switched up their rushing lanes, because in the first half, first half,
we might have our first ever film breakdown clip this week. Keep going.
Because in the first half, it seemed like they were rushing more outside, and it gave Allen the ability to step up, and that's where he's really dangerous, is when he gets to step up, and then he can do things, at the line of scrimmage, and guys come open. In the second half, it looked like they tried to just like collapse the pocket, like kind of how, in a similar way of how teams would attack Brady, is you force everything inside and then make him go outside as opposed to stepping up, and then he kills you that way. And it was very noticeable that that's how they started to rush. And obviously, Allen didn't really have any big runs, if any runs at all, in the second half.
Yeah, and it also seemed like they weren't, like they being the Jets, didn't have like a spy. And this sounds like very basic to say and kind of might be completely wrong, but it felt like they didn't have anybody spying on Josh earlier in the game, and that's why he was able to get out of the pocket and run a little bit more. It kind of seemed like, and maybe this relates to what you're saying, coming out at halftime, it seemed like they had a different game plan for how to handle Josh the rest of the way. When you have corners like we have, like, you're going to be able to do a lot of things against a lot of teams. And you combine that with our pass rush, which is an elite pass rush. This is a very good pass rush. This is a very good defensive back group. It's a top 5 defense in the NFL, top 3 defense in the NFL.
Wait till they play somebody real,
Yeah, God forbid they play somebody real and they play good against them. That'd be kind of crazy, huh?
We're going to be saying this for weeks on end.
Yeah, I mean, and also what I loved a couple things coming out of the game, just like post-game stuff. During the game, I saw Zach, I think it was after the roughing the passer that never was. I can't remember exactly when it was. You can look at the timestamps in our text.
We got crushed on the sideline?
I don't remember when exactly it was, but on the sideline, Garrett and Zach were talking back and forth, and they were together for like, I want to say like 10 straight minutes. And Zach and Garrett were just going back and forth. And Garrett was clearly like giving Zach like some love and like positivity. And Zach was responding well to it. And they came out after that, and Zach looked great the rest of the way. We've had our fair share of things to say about Zach on the show. Everyone has had fair share of things to say on, about Zach. He just needs to play within himself. They just can't overextend. And we all get caught up in like tools and arm talent and things that he can do good. And if he just rolls out, and if he just rolls to the right and he just runs and whatever, it's not as simple as like looking at things on tape or looking at percentages and that's what you should do every time. There's a flow of a game that we need to stick to, and that starts with Mike, and we stayed in it for the most part. I think the only time I felt like really bad about the flow of the game was when we got all the way down to the end there, and this is all the way at the end of the game, so it was fine, but that third down call was like very weird, and I think Zach might have misread it. I think it was like a read play.
No, it was a good call. The Bills just had his targets locked down.
Okay.
And I mean, credit to him for not throwing that ball away and taking the sack, forced Buffalo to take their third timeout. But no, it looked like
that's a good point.
It looked like a kill shot type of play where they were trying to get the score. And I thought it was a good play call, but the Bills just had the Jets receivers locked down.
Yeah. It happens. Then I take it back. I think it was just a great game for Zach, and it was a great day for Zach just because it shows what we can do this year if we keep it simple and we just focus on what we're good at. Like Garrett Wilson, get him how many targets do you have today? 10 or 11? Like just get him a bunch of targets. Focus on the run game. Keep it simple, and we can win a lot of games. Anyway, back to the post-game stuff. All of the conversation from the players was like payback. And that's the kind of shit I love, because you know how I think. I think in terms of fuck everybody. Like it's all about back against the wall. No one believes in us, including the fans. And that's the type of shit I want. Like we're going to go into New England off of this bye, getting people healthy, and we're going to be so angry. We're going to play so angry in that game, and I just can't wait. Like, I'm so excited. It was all about payback. It was all about, listen, we'll see what happens. We'll see him in 2 weeks. We should have won that game. And I think all the players know it. I think the Patriots know it because the quarterback isn't very good. And I'm just really excited for it. I'm so pumped because, like you were saying, and we could talk about it. We could close it out here. Just the schedule down the stretch is tough games, right? The Bears are playing well. The Jags are playing well again. The Seahawks are playing well. The Vikings are 7-1. Not exactly a cakewalk down the stretch, but we can beat anybody, anytime, anywhere, and that's what I know leaving this game today.
Yeah, this was a real, like I said earlier, it's a statement win, and it for all the talk that we've had of the last however many weeks, backup QBs, this, that, and the other thing. Buffalo came into town 6-1, Super Bowl favorites,
had the crowd advantage to start the game too.
Yep, and the Jets held them to 17 points and beat them at home. So if that's not if that doesn't show you anything, then nothing will. Which is, the Jets played a totally normal football game today, according to some. Totally normal football game. Nothing to write home about. Not a statement win.
I have no energy anymore, and today was another victory lap for all the PFF nerds and the guys who just like sit online all day and just like watch all 22 until their eyeballs fall out. Tough day for them. I don't give a shit about that stuff anymore. Like I just don't care. I'm gonna dance on their grave for as long as I possibly can because that's what I do for fun. But it's just these experts and like the statification of football is like something that this Jets team does not stand for, and that's what I love.
They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about that. They don't give a shit about what happened in the Jets teams of 5, 6, 7 years ago. They don't care what the Jets have been looked like for the past however many years by the outside. Saleh said it, and he keeps saying it. He's like, yeah, I wasn't a part of those teams. You weren't a part of those teams. Like, we don't care. And we saw it, excuse me, we saw it the last couple of weeks. I think Michael Carter was saying, like, yeah, no, I mean, like, I know you guys are used to losing, but, like, we didn't come from that. So, like, we don't really care. And that's the type of attitude this team has, and they're all bought in. They love playing with each other, and that's the type of team camaraderie that you need. And, I mean, it seems – going back to your Garrett Wilson point, it just seems like these guys, like I say, they love to play with each other, but they all want to lift each other up. Like you've seen Michael Carter do it a bunch of times on the sidelines, trying to get people, back in the game. Garrett Wilson today with Zach. Like I know last week was tough and guys were frustrated, but like they like to lift each other up, and they know that it's going to take every single guy that goes out there to make plays. And that's the type of shit that matters and can't be quantified in a fucking Excel sheet.
That's fucking right. I'm sick of the math. I'm sick of the advanced stats. I'm sick of everybody saying, how the offense should run based on, the projections in the preseason about people who are going to take a next step. And we could talk about Elijah maybe on our show, our bye-week show later this week, but I just don't care anymore. Like, it just doesn't mean anything to me.
We're 6-3.
We're 6-3.
One game out of the division lead.
Half a game out of the division lead, by the way.
Oh, yeah, because one in the loss column.
Yes, exactly. One last thing I wanted to say, I had a fantastic time with Fireman Ed today. I mean, we had to change up our seating situation for the first time in a while, and Ed is just one of the most passionate, like truly just loves the Jets and just wants to win. And he's just as like crazy as I am. We're like, he and I had this whole thing going on where like on offense, he had to sit with us. On defense, he was allowed to go down and yell and scream. It was just so funny. And he was so happy after the game, and it was just great. And I just really, it was the most fun I've had at a Jet game in a really long time. And that's awesome. And I've had, it's been great.
And that just speaks to like, as fans of this football team, right? Like we bitch, we bicker at each other. Is Zach the guy? Is Zach not the guy? Quinn Williams, is he that guy? When it wins, everyone's just like, it's kind of like siblings, right? Like I can pick on my sibling, but if you pick on my sibling, like we'll beat the shit out of you.
That's exactly what it's like.
Like that's Jet fans. Like we're just like, yeah, cool. Like, we can make fun of our guys, but when you start talking shit and we start winning, you're just gonna get an absolute shit show in your mentions in any possible time. And I love it. This fan base is great. And while we've been starving for a team like this, a fun team, a team that can play football like this and lock you down and make big plays when they need them. I mean, it's awesome. I'm having so much fun this year. Like, who knows what after the bye entails, but this team is just so much fun, and it's been a blast so far.
It's been a blast, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful to Saleh. I'm thankful to Zach. I'm thankful to the defense. Like, I'm just happy to have something to root for every week, I think it's been, like, again, we don't need to overdo it, but it's been great. Last shout out for Jay, who couldn't be here right now. He's hanging out with family, but shout out to Fatty the Turtle, who predicted another victory. One of the only experts to pick the Jets was Fatty the Turtle, and I think he deserves credit for that. So,
did you see the coin flip guy?
No.
Oh, I gotta send it to you. He flipped
like a TikTok
a coin.
Guy or something.
No, he posted literally wrote it on a piece of paper. He flipped a coin for every Jets game. Everyone has been right so far this year. Posted it in August.
All right, can we get that guy on next week or something? Like,
all he did was flip a coin and he posted it.
All right, I want to talk to that guy soon.
They're 6-3. Every game has been right prediction wise through the bye.
So weird. All right, so I think just to wrap it up here, we're headed into the bye week. We'll have a show this week. Are we comfortable announcing who the guest is, or are we not comfortable announcing who the guest is?
Do we have guests?
I don't know. You told me that we had a guest.
No, I wouldn't right now.
Okay, so we're not comfortable announcing the guest yet. If not, we'll do just us, just a mid-season wrap, and we'll see how it is. And that's that. The Jets are 6-3. Fuck everybody. And these boys are ready to play the rest of the year. And that's that. This has been Just Enough to Suffer. This has been Just Enough to Suffer. We'll see you in New England. Shout out Jay. Shout out Greg. We win. Peace and love.